Hi, welcome to Touchdown T. My name's Nicky and this is my brand new NFL and Baltimore Ravens fan channel. It's only my second video and it's going to be on the state of the Ravens before the 2020 season. In my first video, I explained how I became a Baltimore Ravens fan over here in England. Please do go back and watch that if you haven't already. As I said in that video, I didn't used to know many Ravens fans over here in the UK. I used to watch games alone and just follow along and chat to other fans internationally on Twitter or before that on other forums. So I'm hoping I'm going to meet and interact with many more fans through this channel. Please do leave your comments and I'll get back to you in future videos. Now, on to the 2020 Ravens. So last year was the best regular season in Ravens history. 14-2 record, Assistant Coach of the Year award for Greg Roman, Coach of the Year award for Jim Harbaugh, 6 All-Pros, and of course the MVP for Lamar Jackson. So there's a lot of reason for optimism going into this season, especially because there haven't been too many major personnel losses. Of course, we've lost Marshall Yonder, which is a big hit on the offensive line. But apart from that, there haven't been too many losses. And we've had some really good additions as well, mainly in the form of Calais Campbell and Derek Wolfe on D. Another really big thing for the team is to have all the coaching staff still in place. Neither coordinator left during the off-season, and it was widely expected that either Greg Roman on offense or Wink Martindale on D would actually go to another team for a head coaching role because they did such a good job on the team last year. But thankfully for us, selfishly for us, they didn't go anywhere. No one picked them up, and they're still with the Ravens. So onto the 53-man roster. So there were no major shocks when the 53-man roster was announced. There was not a single undrafted free agent on the team's active roster for the first time in, I think, 16 years. But I think we can attribute that quite safely to the effects of COVID-19 on the NFL schedule. There have been no preseason games, which means less of a chance for these guys to impress and get onto the roster and show the coaches what they can do. And I think that's the reason why Utah QB Tyler Huntley didn't make the roster. I really had high hopes for Tyler Huntley, and according to most reports from training camp, he outplayed last year's third stringer, Trace McSorley. But I think the coaching staff have taken the safe route. They haven't been able to see Tyler in any preseason games. They're going to go with the experienced hand, and that's understandable. But I still have really high hopes for Tyler in the future, and I would not be surprised to see him backing up Lamar in future years. Now onto the offense, and we'll start with Lamar. Most important thing is that last year's MVP is healthy. He had a groin injury in camp that kept him out of a few practices, but it looks like it's not serious. He says he's 100% and ready to go, and that's of course what we need going into the season. Onto the wide receivers. Most importantly, Hollywood Brown is also healthy. The screw's gone from his foot. He's fully over the Liz Frank injury from last year, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard that he's put on something like 20 pounds of muscle. He's raring to go. He's really confident. Lamar's been bigging him up all off season, saying that he's ready to go, saying that he's much faster than last season, saying that he's been overthrowing Hollywood sometimes because Marquise is just so much faster than he's used to from last year when he was running around hampered with a screw in his foot. So that really bodes well. And I'm going to make a personal prediction that if Lamar and Marquise both stay healthy for all 16 games this season, Hollywood's going to get a 1,000-yard receiving season. Now, next is my personal favourite, Miles Boykin. I'm really enthused about what he could achieve in the future. I know he had a middling year in his rookie year, but he's still developing, learning the playbook, and he said it was a difficult year for him. I really think he's going to take a big jump this year. He's been really good in training camp by most reports. I think he's just really more confident in himself, in his team, in his place in the team. And I really expect him to develop into a solid number 2 receiver this year. So I'm looking forward to that. On top of that, I mean, Willie Snead's coming back. He's a good veteran presence. Our draft picks, Devin Duvernay and James Proche are looking good. So I think we've got a really good set of receivers this year and we should be excited. And I know a lot of you out there wanted Antonio Brown on the team, but I'm confident that this set of guys is going to show that we don't need AB. It would have been a distraction. And as we've seen from a certain other player who got cut, the team isn't going to put up with these kind of things, and they're not going to put up with any distractions or disruptions in the locker room. And I can't see that AB in the Ravens locker room, even with his cousin Hollywood being there, would have been anything other than a distraction for the team. One roster surprise is that Baltimore's only carrying 2 tight ends on the active roster this year. That will shock quite a few people, given that we had such a success last year with 2 and 3 tight end sets with Hayden Hurst, Nick Boyle and Mark Andrews all working so well in tandem together. But following Hayden Hurst's trade to Atlanta, we're just going with 2 this year. And the news from training camp is that the team is looking at using Patrick Ricard, our utility man, as a tight end a lot this year. So I'm actually excited to see how that goes, because we've seen Patrick can do pretty much everything. He's amazing. I love him as a player. And he's been an effective ball carrier. He carried the ball sometimes last year. So it's an intriguing move, and hopefully it works out. Now, the biggest issue on the team, I think, is the O-line. And with future Hall of Famer in Marshall Yonder dropping out into retirement after the last season, we do have concerns about whether the O-line is going to perform at the really high level that it did last year. First off, it's filling his spot at right guard. And I think if you spoke to quite a few Ravens fans over the offseason, there seemed to be an assumption that last year's 4th rounder, Ben Powers, would just slot straight into the team at right guard. I was skeptical of that, and I did tell some people that they didn't really seem to believe me. But if you looked at last year's numbers, I think he only had 30 snaps all year. And for me, I thought that if the team really was grooming him to take over that spot, really had strong confidence in him, he would have played more than 30 snaps at some point, given that we did have injuries on the O-line last year as well. But he was rarely used, so to me that didn't seem a massive sign of confidence in him. And we've seen that this year it doesn't look like he will be taking over that spot. It looks like this year's 3rd rounder Tyree Phillips or new addition DJ Fluker will be filling in at right guard. And look, realistically, neither of them are going to be as good as Marshall, but Tyree especially has a high upside. So we'll see which of them starts the first game, and hopefully they fill the position well and there's not too much slippage there. There's a bit of a concern at centre, because last year's starting centre, Matt Skura, is still not back from his horrific knee injury. When I say he's not back, he's mostly healthy, but he's not 100%, and that's understandable. I think he tore his MCL, PCL and ACL, dislocated his kneecap. It was a horrible injury, and he's done well to get back so quickly from it. But if he's not completely ready to go, we've got Patrick McCurry, who stepped in really, really well last year. And there has been some mix-up in training camp. At some point, I think they moved McCurry to left guard and moved last year's left guard, Bradley Bozeman, over to centre. So we'll see how the team starts off this year. But it probably will be with McCurry in the centre and Bozeman at left guard, where he was really comfortable last year. So we'll see how those changes on the O-line affect the run game, which of course was so wildly successful last year. In fact, it was literally the best run game in NFL history. No team's ever run for as many yards as the Ravens did last year. All the running backs from last year are coming back: Justice Hill, Gus Edwards, and of course, Mark Ingram. I was about to call Mark the team's leading rusher from last season, but I'm actually not sure that's true. Maybe it was Lamar. I know they both got 1,000-yard seasons. Someone correct me. Which one of them actually rushed for more yards? Was it Mark or was it Lamar? But either way, they're all coming back. There's a lot of reason for optimism on the run game, because now we've even got J.K. Dobbins involved as well. J.K. Dobbins was a phenomenon in college, just a monster at Ohio State, and he was available in the 2nd round. We didn't really need a running back, but GM Eric DeCosta said he was far too good to pass up at that stage. So the team's got him. He's looked really good, and I expect his snaps to increase as the season goes on. I would still expect Mark Ingram to be starting the games at the start of the season, but I think later in the year, JK's role is going to increase, and we'll see how the running game goes. I don't expect it to be as good as it was last year. Just teams are going to be more familiar with the scheme from what they've seen last year, and also the O-line is not going to be as good as it was last year without Marshall Yonder. But I think we're still going to be running over a hell of a lot of teams, hopefully starting with the Browns on Sunday. Now on to the defence. American viewers, please excuse my British pronunciation of the words. I'll start from the back and work our way to the front. Obviously, the big story, the elephant in the room, is the cut of Earl Thomas. I won't say too much on it because it's an old story now and everyone's read and spoken and listened to way too much about it. It's a shame how it ended up. He was one of my favourite non-Ravens players before he joined the team, but it just wasn't working out. It seems like he was a nightmare behind the scenes, causing loads of trouble, wasn't turning up to meetings, etc. So hopefully it's an addition by subtraction situation and the team going forward will be more solid and cohesive without him. We've got a lot of reason for optimism at the back end of the defence anyway. Chuck Clark came in last season when Tony Jefferson went down in week 5 in that really bruising, brutal game against the Steelers at Heinz Field. I remember in that game, I was just devastated when Jefferson went down. I thought, oh no, the defence is not going to last. I mean, at that time, we weren't playing quite as well. I was worried, but Chuck Clark came in and was phenomenal. He played really well, and I think going into next season, we expect him to take even a bigger step up. He's the man with the green dot on his helmet, meaning he's the coordinator, communicator on defence and getting the information, the plays in his headset from defensive coordinator Wink Martindale. So the team has got massive trust in him. They really respect him as a player, as a leader, and that's shown by the fact he's got the green dot. So the man stepping into Earl's role is going to be, coincidentally, another former Texas Longhorn safety, Deshaun Elliott. He has been really impressive in training camp as well. The team have got high hopes for him. Both seasons so far he's been in the league. He's ended up on IR both years, which is really unfortunate for him. So we just have to hope that this year he can actually stay healthy all 16 games, which is not always something you can be confident in for a player who's been on injured reserve the previous 2 years. And I think he's only played 6 games so far. And in fact, I think a lot of those 6 games he was playing special teams rather than playing on D. So it's a risk, but the team's got confidence in him, and let's hope that everything works out at the back end. And anyway, we've got really great defensive backs in general. If you go to our cornerback room, now we've got a healthy Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey, who of course were the 2 all-pro corners from last year, plus Jimmy Smith is healthy. And he's getting on in age now. He's losing some of his speed. So maybe he could even transition to safety, if not this season, next season. And of course, we've got Tavon Young returning as well. He was on injured reserve last season. He missed the entire season after getting an injury in pre-season or in training camps. Linebacker was a big position of need for the team last season. Ravens hadn't really replaced CJ Mosley since he went off to New York Jets. But this season, the team has really gone all in at linebacker. First round pick, Patrick Queen, looks great. Third round pick, Malik Harrison, looks great. And I expect them both to start in the inside spots, backed up by LJ Fort, who did a really good job in spots last season. On the outside, we've got Matt Judon again, who I know a lot of you out there wanted gone after last season, hoping he'd be traded. He's on the franchise tag. Personally, I'm glad he's back with the team. I like him as a player. He's a high motor player. He gives effort, and he got us sacks last season. So I don't know if it'll be his last season with the team or not, but I personally like him, and I expect him to do a good job this year, aided by the additions to the defensive line. And those additions to the defensive line are, as I said earlier, Derek Wolfe and Calais Campbell. I mean, both these guys are really good additions, both veteran presences who are going to help the younger players on the team. Derek Wolfe is not a former Pro Bowler. I don't know how. He's never been on a Pro Bowl ever, but he's done a good job in his time at Denver. Was a really hard worker there, Super Bowl champion. And he's someone I really respect because if you read his background, he's had quite tough situations growing up. He seems like a really hungry player. And I expect him to really work hard in the Ravens. And as for Calais Campbell, this is a guy who's well respected across the league. Everyone seems to love Calais Campbell, and he is the reigning Walter Payton Man of the Year, which just shows you what his character is like. Both Derek and Calais have been so complimentary about the team since they've joined. I know people say all kinds of things when they join a team, but when you speak to them or when you hear them speak about the team, they seem so enthusiastic about being in Baltimore. They seem to love the culture. They seem to love how hard everyone works, and they seem really, really excited to be on the team and to play for a Super Bowl. So I think they're going to be massive additions, and they should really help us get more edge pressure, even from the front, because last season the team was actually really good at getting edge pressure despite not having many edge rushers of note on the team. That's down to Wink Martindale and his scheme. He just sent blitzes and blitzes and blitzes, and I think we had maybe the highest blitz percentage in the league. But maybe this season that won't be as necessary with the additions that the team has made. So hopefully we'll get even more pressure, have a much better pass rush this season, and that will help us out. It's also just been announced that defensive tackle Brandon Williams has restructured his contract, which means the team's freed up a bit more cap space. So we'll see what GM Eric DeCosta can do with that in the future. I mean, we know the team's going to need cap space in the future. We've got a lot of top players, superstar players that in the next 2-3 years are going to need contract extensions. And I think we're all already worried as Raven fans how the team's going to manage that. But Eric's great, just like Ozzy was great before him, and we'll see how he works it out. So as for a season prediction, I'm not going to say that the team's going to win 14 games again. I've seen loads of people out there speculating about 16-0 seasons, 15-1 seasons. I can't do it personally. It's too much for my heart. I can't go put that expectation on the season and then when we lose games be stressing out. So I'm going to go for a 12-4 season. Honestly, it's not the regular season that counts this year anyway. We know it's all about the Super Bowl. I mean, frankly, it's about Lamar getting his first playoff win. We need to get that off his back, but we want the Super Bowl this year. I'd be happy if we snuck into the playoffs at 9-7 and went on a run. I mean, that's fine by me. I don't think any of us minded when we won the Super Bowl last and we kind of went through the wild card route. It doesn't have to be a 14-2 season for this season to be successful. It's all about the big one at the end of the year. So fingers crossed we can do it. I've got faith in the team. They look hungry. They are so ready. The coaching staff is just amazing. I know that Jim Harbaugh is really hungry for this as well. So everyone's going to be working towards the same goal. Everyone's really united, and that's just really exciting. My next video will be a review of week 1 across the NFL, including Browns v Ravens on Sunday, of course. I feel really bad for the fans over in Maryland that none of you can get over to the bank on Sunday. Got such great fans at Baltimore, some of the best, most enthusiastic and loudest fans in the league. And it's a shame that you won't be able to give your support to the team on Sunday. But hopefully the team can get the job done without. Please do press subscribe and leave your comments below this video. And you can also send your comments or questions into me at touchdownt@gmail.com. That's touchdownt@gmail.com. And hopefully if I get enough, I can start answering your questions or comments in future videos. Thanks for watching. Go Ravens.